Good morning, everyone. Today is April 23rd. This is our budget hearing, and we will begin by opening remarks by our Mayor Bazey. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Council Chair. Thank you, Council members. Thank you for all the residents that are calling in, elected officials that are calling in. Again, we're going to go through our budget hearing for the next several weeks. I know they've been advertised by the clerk's office. They're going to be on Fridays. The agendas also will be posted. So we're going through 21, 22 budget. First, I want to thank the staff that actually worked very diligently trying to get this budget up and running. So we had about 3 weeks to come up with a budget that when we submitted it on April 1st, you know, I want to thank Mr. Badri and also Elizabeth. They actually, I know Elizabeth, she spent countless hours. There was one night she was working at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, several nights. So again, you know, just to get it on track so we can meet the charter. And as of then, since you know we're in a COVID status right now, a lot of adjustments have come our way. So by the day, you know, things are coming in. So we made some, every day we're working on the budget, trying to make adjustments. And Mr. Badri and Elizabeth, the last several days did the same thing, trying to get everything up to what was submitted last night. You know, it was just the adjustment, not the budget, but the adjustment that we made. So the team is going to go through each department and with the changes, you know, we'll outline what changes or adjustments we made. And if you guys have any questions, you know, please feel free to ask any question you might have. And thank you. I want to thank everyone on the call. Thanks to council members for taking your time on a Friday to do this. So with that, I'll go to Mr. Badri.
Okay, let me announce. Before we go to Mr. Badri, I'd like to ask any council members if they have any questions to wait until his presentation is complete. At this time, Mr. Badri, our comptroller, would you like to begin?
He's muted.
No, I'm unmuting him.
Madam Chair, quick question. Did you want us to share what we go through on the screen with you? Or do you want to go through the document that was Mr. Badri sent to you?
That's what I'm going through. So it's if you guys want to do that. If not, I don't know if Mariana is able to share it.
Actually, the
just
council
go through
chair.
the document. We can just go through the document.
Okay.
Because we've all got that you sent us, and thank you for that. That was very nice of you.
No, not a problem. Okay, we can do that if everybody can open up. I just sent that just kind of to give you an idea of some of the little things we did, adjustments that you might have a question about. But you know, the first page, if you go to the second tab, there's a tab that says day one. So that's kind of all the different departments that we're talking about today. I kind of summarized them on there. Just one note, the revenue part of it on the top there, the taxes, they don't show in the activity section where it says through 6/30 of 21, which actually means up to today. But really, it's the same numbers as in the amended. The column right next to it that says 2021 amended budget. Those are the numbers actually up to date for those 5-6 revenues that you just move over. And then if you add that up in the column, it shows the activity to date at 40,532,000 at the bottom. So, you know, the budget that we're proposing is at 53, a little over 53 million. So those numbers are here. I was going to email them to you, then I figured let me just, instead of sending you 15 emails, just tell you that those numbers are the same numbers for this column as well. So, and I can send you an up-to-date one. On any of the things we talk about, we can send you an up-to-date, you know, Excel spreadsheet or anything you need. Okay, so the first section, we talk about all the different revenues. There's a lot of discussions going on with our budget committee, and then I'm sure a lot of you are going to be involved in how we segregate the different accounts that need to be segregated and all that. And we just got off the phone with Plant and Moran, just trying to confirm a couple of things that, the way we're currently segregating a lot of these accounts is acceptable. That's, that's how most of the people do it, to avoid a lot of the red tape and bank reconciliations and all that kind of thing extra. So it cuts down on the work having it all in the general ledger, but segregating it that way. So that's, but I have examples on this spreadsheet that I sent to you guys where we actually segregated like the 345 Act 345 accounts. Were discussions of segregating the sanitation revenue and sanitation expense account. So anything that needs to be segregated, we're discussing how to create separate line items for them so they're easier for you guys to track. So the whole idea is to be a little more transparent, and the way things were created before are a little bit confusing. So we're trying to see where we can make that a little more efficient. But anyways, if you look through the revenues here, nothing's changed that much that, from what we've been sending to you guys. Let me go down to the, let's see. So in general government, you see the examples for the Act 345s, where I highlighted them in this orange, and along with the salaries and fringe benefits for the salaries and the retirement pay and the retirement salaries for the Act 345 for the police department and fire department. So anything in orange, those will be segregated into a separate department that we're going to create so that you can track the Act 345 stuff, and it's on its own. Other than that, let's see. So for human resources, we're adding a little bit more to the salary. So that's bumped up there. I left a little note on the side for you to look at. And anywhere where you bump up a little bit of the salary, the fringe benefit goes up a little bit. So, I put that in a separate column because we didn't officially get, when we get this finalized, we can move it into the BSNA and I can send you an official report. You go down to, like in our department, the comptroller department, we don't really have any changes from what we submitted to you guys. So, I mean, I'd, other than that, honestly, on the other departments also, if you have any other questions, I mean, I'd like to open it up to questions so we can kind of dig into what you guys want to ask and what you need answers to, if that's all right. So how do we want to do this? I mean, is somebody else going to run who's asking the questions? Because
Yes, I am.
okay,
I
perfect.
facilitate whoever. Councilman Muscat.
Yeah, are we going to ask questions as far as like, I have some issues with capital outlay. Do we ask the directors of that, or now? Should I just wait to ask the directors?
If it's if it's regarding that department, I would wait till the directors are on there. And
Okay,
ask them.
that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Abdallah?
Well, I just want to check, are we going to be going over the specific budget? So like in this particular case, the comptroller's office proposed budget, are we going to do that next, I presume?
Yeah,
This
no,
is where
this
the
is-
comptroller should be presenting his budget.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, I thought part of we're supposed to present the revenue, the general, I mean, nothing has changed dramatically in our department budget. So, I mean, yeah, but you can ask any questions you want about either one of the departments that I covered.
Okay, so I had a question in regards, and this is probably more for the mayor, probably more than you, comptroller. We have on there a raise from $69,525 to $80,000 in the new proposed budget. And I just want to understand the thought process behind that. I'm sure the comptroller, from what I can see, is doing a good job. I've heard good things about him, and I've seen his qualifications, and I have to admit, it's pretty impressive qualifications. But I'm just wondering the thought process behind that, because there's a raise there of roughly around 16-17% in that ballpark. And I'm just wondering as to the thought process behind that, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Pro Tem Abdallah. So with the raises, as we requested, in the last two iterations that we had, the last two council meetings, with with the comptroller and actually with other departments that we put the budget for. So this applies to all the department heads. So with in regards to the pay raises, especially with like during the COVID the situation they're in, I've actually seen all the building, not building director, the ordinance and the comptroller, the HR director. So everyone's working. I know there was a lot of assumptions in the past, that they only work the 4 days a week. But all of them actually come in on weekends, and they are working on Friday, as you can see. And some days they come in on Saturdays. I've seen some they come in on Sundays as well. So with that, even with COVID, the situation that we're in, they're going way and above the call of duty, I would say, with all the stuff that they're doing, and especially with the comptroller, since you asked about the comptroller, the situation that we were in the past, and you're not going to be able to get a comptroller for the salary that was requested on there. And if it wasn't for the comptroller that we bought, obviously most of you, whoever requested his resume, saw his qualification. We have a great comptroller, and with the salary, I think is low. Even 80 is low for his qualifications.
Okay, but what was the, I don't know if we have it here. Actually, I have the old budget. I could probably look it up. But what was the previous salary for the last controller that we had? Anybody know off the top of your heads?
$69,525.
Right. That's what I have on here. So that's what the last controller that just left. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna tell you honestly, for me, I have a little bit of a hard time, and I'm sure Mr. Jawad will do a great job, and I have no problem maybe doing that later. But with somebody just starting out, to give them an instant raise at that level, I just personally, I don't think it's a good idea. I have no problem giving him a little bit of a raise. I know his qualifications are great qualifications, but and it's just this is no reflection on him. To me, once somebody proves themselves, then we start giving them raises. That's just my personal opinion. So I guess we'll address that with whatever other council members have. The other thing I had for the controller, in clerical, you went from current budgeted 1, and then you went to half. Are you splitting time with one of the? Okay, it looks like the HR director is saying yes. Is that a case?
With clerical in our department, what are you looking at?
Okay, so I'm looking at clerical number 3, clerical 3, and it's going from budgeted 1, requesting half, going from a current salary of $41,269 to $20,634. So I'm just wondering, are you lessening the number of employees, or are you going to be sharing somebody with another department?
Yeah, that's a question that Elizabeth would know specifically, but yeah, I know we share with the water department employees, and I know that there's some overlap there, but when we were figuring out what we had in the budget, I think Elizabeth was involved in figuring out the balance there for what we need and what we don't need.
Is that the case, Elizabeth, in this case?
It is. It's a person that's split between comptroller's office and water department. I actually think that, and Shantae could back me up on this because she's the deputy comptroller who's also been here. I think even the current budget, that may even be a mistake because the person is working part water and part comptroller.
I see. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Shantae, did you have something?
She covered it. I'm sorry, I had to raise my hand. I was muted.
Oh, that's all right.
Yes, Matthew is the previous budget. I think there was an error. Matthew is actually a split employee between the water department and the comptroller's department.
So it's not necessarily, Shantae, so it's not necessarily a change. It's just the previous numbers that we had. It's a correction. Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Madam Chair.
Or to present, okay, Councilman Abdul Haq.
Okay. Looks like we are missing the big picture on this budget, the revenue and the expenses, the expenditures. I would like to ask our controller how you calculate the property tax, the first current property taxes. if the assessor or the controller can explain how he came up with this number of 10,757,675.
We conferred that through the assessor's office. And I mean, they came up with the exact numbers. And so I didn't compute them myself. We came through there. We confirmed it a couple of times through the assessor's office.
I would like to hear it from the assessor if possible. How much is the total value, assessed value of the city? And what is the percentage of the mills levied on the property tax? And what is the exact number? Is it this one or it's more than that?
Okay, Councilman, I have Shantae Williams has her hand up. I think she may want to answer that question. Go ahead, please.
So these numbers are estimates right now, right? Because we don't have actual numbers on this right now. But John Riley, myself, and Kim from the Assessors Department, we did sit down and calculate these numbers. I can send you how that was calculated if you would like, but just to give you kind of a run through, we took the final taxable values, we subtracted the losses, we calculated in the CPI of 1.4%. We then added the additions and removed the TIPA captures from it. That gave us a number that we divided by 1,000 and then multiplied by the millage rates.
What was the millage rate?
For the taxes, I believe it was the 8.11.
Okay.
Okay, but I can send you those rates if you would like.
I would like, so because this is the time really the city council has to do their diligent job to make sure that this budget is correct, there is no mistakes or no frictions in it.
No problem.
And the activities by through 6/30/21, I see that you don't have any numbers.
So the reason that's missing, not to cut you off, there is a journal entry that has to be done in order to post those activities. Mr. Badri was not aware of those journal entries that needed to be done until about April. So they are done. It is post. It's just not on here. That's why he said he could give you another report if you need it. But the activity is now in the general ledger. It is there.
So can you provide those for us before we vote on this, please? And why was the delay?
Again, there's new comptroller in the office, and we had to figure out the process. Once we figured out how to do it, then we did it.
But just so you know, the numbers activity, like I mentioned to you at the beginning of the presentation, if you look at the column right next to it that says 2020, 2021 amended budget, it should match them. So.
Okay.
We can get you an up-to-date.
So I'm going to ask for every little detail, so bear with me, because I take this very seriously. You know, I had 2 CPAs before.
Yep.
In the city, controller, I mean mayor and treasurer, and we had millions of dollars over levied.
Yes.
And I don't know what the hell happened.
Okay.
So bear with me. I take my job seriously, and I hope everybody of my colleagues do the same thing, because this is the main job we have.
And Councilman, just to tell you, you can come by the office anytime you want with any specific questions, and we can go over it individually too.
I will, Mr. Jawad. Thank you. But I'm looking at on the second page. We have, bear with me, please. We have 913 police reimbursement of 300,000 proposed. We expected as of 2020-21, 6/30/21, we only collected $102,000 and 29. And we were expecting 309,000. We are short almost 200,000. How we expect to collect 200,000 in less than 2 months?
I'd honestly, I'd have to look at, I didn't look at that specific number.
Okay, there are,
I know that we're in the process
okay.
of getting.
there
some of
are
the-
several items. I would like you to write them down if you don't mind.
Sure.
District court revenues, we are short almost $2 million from what we collected, unless somebody is not writing down or not posting to the general ledger what we received and what we spent.
Okay.
And you have on the recreation, we proposed 145. We are collecting 545,000, and we collected $512. So we are short 45,000. On Young Center revenue, proposed 77,000, we only collected 254. And several items like that. You have reimbursement from, I think, a Smart Bus. You are proposing 92,000. You already collected almost 9,000. Then I'm looking at the bottom from 2021 amended budget. We had $50,481,651 and expected activity of 6/30/21, 12,603.
Yeah, and that's because the tax revenues and those things are
Am
not.
I missing something? I know when I was a treasurer, we collected lots of money from reimbursement from state, from different places. I'm looking at $38 million difference between the two numbers.
If you add, excuse me, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but just so I remember this part of it. If you add the first top 5 line items with the activity that should be there for the taxes, you end up at 40,532 and 229. So you're now short 13 million.
Okay.
So it's getting closer to the amount. Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure that really we have actual numbers. We don't have numbers. We just put to satisfy.
Yes. No.
Okay.
I'll get that to you as well.
And what I would like, there is 1,244,000 from Plant Moran report of June 30th, 2020. There is $1,244,838 left from sanitation levy. Did we take those into account when we did the budget? That we have money left from last year?
In projections, we do, but I mean, usually they have a little bit of a rainy day kind of a fund. So they have, I mean, we still are adjusting stuff. I mean, basically, we were waiting to have the final discussions with you guys, but I mean, we take everything into account.
Okay, I just want my colleague to understand one thing, please.
Yes.
There will be lots of adjustment to this budget. So this is, I believe it's not final budget.
Yeah.
And I expect lots of corrections to it and lots of amendment. So I thank you, Mr. Jawad, for what you did, you and the team, and thanks to our mayor. And I want to thank our friends on the city council, my colleagues, all of you, that this is something we should look very carefully and very closely at it, because we don't want to end up at the end of the year in the negative and the state comes with a hammer on our head.
Exactly.
And I want to suggest one thing, please, to my colleagues too. Let's leave the questions about the salaries and the details when we discuss each department separately. So we look at the bigger picture than just going after specific items in each department. And I have lots of other things I would like to share with you, Mr. Jawad. I will come to your office and talk about them. And for me, enough for me at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a few
Appreciate your
hands
help.
here. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
I've
I
got
just
a
said I
few here.
appreciate it. I'm sorry.
I got a few hands here. Mayor Bazey, did you have any comments?
Yes, Council Chair, thank you. So I want to address Councilman Abdelhat when he mentioned revenues. I know this is something we talked about last year. I don't know if some of you, that when I discussed it when on council, that we knew that we're in a COVID situation. We knew we're not going to get all the revenues. And I'm one of the ones that voted no for the budget from last year. But with that, one good thing that happened this, I mean, obviously, we're in a bad situation with the COVID, but the government is putting on the American Rescue Plan was actually passed. So I've been in continuous, almost every week, if not like twice a week, I'm meeting with some people from the congressional delegates to talk about the American Rescue Plan. So our city is getting over 25 million, close to $26 million from the American Rescue Plan, which that part of the money we can actually use for lost revenue. So one of the things that that you can use that money for, we haven't gotten all the details on where the money to be used when we haven't announced it yet, because we're still waiting. It's still fluid. The government haven't really passed exactly what you can use the funding on, but one of them, the first item is lost revenues. So with lost revenues, that when you talked about that, Councilman Abdelhat, is just to give you an example, our building department, the revenues on that one was coming in very low, but since Director Watland, Rick Watland's been taken, he took charge of that department. The revenues are going, I mean, they're going way up right now. So I think we're going to exceed the revenues. It looks that way so far. And when he gets to his department, he can talk about the revenues that we have seen, just in the short amount of time. So as you mentioned, Councilman Abdelhat, is that stuff we're getting adjustments by the day. As I mentioned that earlier today. A lot of things are happening. There's a lot of moving parts. We have a great team in place right now. We're trying to make sure that everything is up to speed. And as you mentioned also, this is, has been mentioned the last several years, it's fluid, it keeps changing, and hoping it's going to be positive. And at the end of the day, when you guys do approve the budget, when we present it, it's going to have the latest and greatest numbers. So it's going to be changing. We're going to look at these numbers, but we'll keep you guys in the loop of any changes, positive or negative, but it looks like it's coming in the positive direction right now.
Madam Chair.
Delphi?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mayor Bazzi, thank you. I know you guys work in very long hours. I just want my colleagues and myself to expect that there will be changes, and this is not the final version of the budget.
Yes, Councilman Abdelhat, we do have a budget wrap up on the last day where we go department by department. So that is when we will make the changes.
Okay.
Next we have HR. Are you still wanting to talk? Harry?
I do. Just a moment of clarity for everyone. In the 2020-2021 activity, although it says through June 30th of 2021, these are really numbers that are reflective as the end of February. Those are the solid numbers. This document was prepared in advance of April 1st, so even the March numbers weren't finalized. So that's why you'll see some timing. I don't know this for a fact, but I have a feeling the 911 dollars, it's probably done on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, and it could be a timing issue. So some of what you're seeing is timing, and that's all I wanted to, even though it's labeled, that's kind of issue within the BSNA software and how these reports print, but that's not really truly reflective of the date that these numbers were available.
And we'll get the up-to-date numbers to Mr. Abdul Haq, Councilman Abdul Haq, anyway. We can get you more accurate numbers.
Madam Chair, I would have appreciated if that would have been by March 6th, March 30th instead of June 30th. That would have been far better for all of us. The activities.
Yeah,
If it would have been by, written as February 28th or March 30th, that would have been more clear to me than if it is June 30th.
okay. I mean,
Next, we have Shantae Williams.
Actually, I was going to say what Elizabeth and Mayor Bazzi already said, but I will say this in regards to your comment, Councilman Abdel Haq. When it comes to the titles, I can give a call to BSNA because those are generated in BSNA. We have no way to change. It literally gives you the fiscal year and you have to select the fiscal year. So we are well aware, Director Jamal definitely said this will come up and that the date will be a question. And it is through the, as Elizabeth said, it is through the end of February. We did try to change it. We have to call BSNA to see if they're able to do so. And I was also going to do, as the mayor advised, and just suggest you all think about the previous year, 2020 through 2021, as we were not like fully operating. I talked to, who's over at, I can't believe I'm having a mind blank. Yes, Michelle Atkins. I talked to Michelle Atkins, and even over in district court, they, as far as ticket writings, those type of things changed, which changed revenue a little bit. So I think when it goes to the 2021-2022 budget, we're requesting these things based upon the fact of entering into a form of normalcy more so. Now we'll operate a little more, whereas with COVID, I mean, things were different. And so as you're looking at the revenues, I just ask that you keep that in mind.
Next, we have Councilman Baydoun.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the entire committee who went ahead and put this budget together. Thank you to the mayor. Thank you to our new comptroller, Mr. Jawad, HR director, Elizabeth, and Mrs. Williams. Thank you guys so much. So just a couple of questions that I have for the mayor. I know he mentioned that the new revenue was shown to the department, for the building department. Can you get us a breakdown of that to the council so that my colleagues as well can be able to see, the differences of what happened there? And then I know that we're speaking of hypothetical, maybe it does happen and maybe it doesn't, about the way we're able to spend the money, to the way, the funds due to COVID and the state. I think before we have an actual 100% understanding of where we can or can't spend it, we shouldn't go based off of a hypothetical of saying, we could potentially, put it here. And I know you've been speaking with someone from the state once or twice a week, but just as long as, for the protection of the city and the residents and for you and for all of council, if we can get something also in writing for them saying that, hey, yes, you will be able to use it, I don't see why not we couldn't. So that's all that I had for this part.
Let me interject one little thing about that. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely correct, but we've talked to Plant Moran, and what they say is some of this funding that's coming in, it looks like they're going to be a little more liberal with the cities because of COVID, than what we anticipated them restricting the funds to. So it looks like we're going to have a little more flexibility. They weren't willing to say exactly what yet, but they said that's what it's looking like.
Well,
So we'll let you, obviously, we'll let you know exactly when we find out as well.
Because I don't think my colleagues or myself want to go ahead and approve of the budget based on a hypothetical.
Sure.
Not to say that it won't happen, but just maybe that small chance that it doesn't happen, we can't take on that risk. Speaking on all the taxpayers' monies.
Sure. And the government funding, we didn't really add into the budget, but this is just something that should soften the blow a little bit. So the mayor is basically just giving you a positive outlook from what we can anticipate.
And I thank you, the mayor, and I know you guys are working diligently. Thank you guys. I know this is tiring, and this isn't something that you woke up one day and said, here's the budget. I know you guys are working extremely hard between you, the mayor, and HR and Mrs. Williams and the treasurer's office. And thank you to everybody. But I also just don't want to go based off a hypothetical. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Mayor, did you want to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Council Chair. Thank you, Councilman Baydun. So as you mentioned, and Mr. Badri said the same thing, we're talking to the government, we're talking to Plan Moran. We actually did not put the numbers that we wanted. That 25 point something $million was not, excuse me, put in the budget for that reason, because we're not gonna say anything till the money's in our account. So that money is not in our budget. We did not put it in there. We did not account for it till, like I said, till it's in our account. And I'm just saying, as Mr. Badri said, for the positive, and we will have more concrete data before this budget is actually approved. We still got about a month before you guys actually approve the budget.
That's perfect.
So we're getting changes, we're getting information, we're getting data here every day. We're getting data. So we're as the two congressional Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and also Congresswoman Dingell both thought that we should have something concrete probably within the next 3 weeks, so before the budget vote. But again, the 25 point something $million was not put on this budget. So for that reason, because it's still not concrete and it's still, like I said, you're not gonna go spend money if it's not in your account.
Thank you.
We have Treasurer Hicks Clayton. Did you want to respond?
Yes, good morning, everyone. The mayor kind of surmised what I was going to add to this, and I wanted to, of course, remind everyone that the budget is always, even the current year, fiscal year, is fluid, is a living document that changes. So no, you don't write in what you see as prospective future grants or whatnot. You never count that in your budget, but know that your budget will always change. And there have been some challenges with revenue, whether it's court or building. But that's the responsibility of all of us to always monitor. That's why we get a monthly report to show your revenue and expenditures. So that way, as amendments need to be made, whether it's in September, October, next year, February, you do so. So that way you end, with a balanced budget. And that really is your goal. And as the mayor had indicated, we're working with state and federal leaders on a regular basis to get accurate information, to get accurate numbers, but that is ever fluid. So we take that into consideration. I just wanted to add that. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At this time, is there anything further for the Comptroller's Department before we move on to Human Resources?
Madam Chair,
Councilman Abdul Haq?
I just want to make sure that we're going to separate all those restricted funds from everything else. Is the controller working on it?
Yes, sir. And if you look at if you scroll down through this notes sheet that I sent you for day one, you'll see a couple of the departments that we were going to create. Me and Mr. Jamal, we're talking about it. We talk about it constantly. So we're trying to figure out more efficient ways to do things. We're talking to Plant and Moran, and they say what we're doing technically is okay. But we want to make sure it's easy for anybody who's looking at it, including you guys, to be able to say, oh, this is happening, and make your decisions based on it. So we're trying to make it, as readable as possible. You guys are familiar with how it looks now, and over years it was created to be a little bit jumbled in, but we're working on making it like that for you.
Thank you.
And also I just want to add something. Sorry, Madam Chair. There's an item which is if you look at the Excel sheet, it's on line number 91. It has a sale of city property. So if you look at Excel sheet 92 on day one, it's under budget item number, let's see, 101-00679-001. You guys, .001. Do you see it?
Line item 91.
Yeah. So if you look at, I'm sorry, item number. Okay, hold on. Let me see. I just lost.
Yes, it's
okay, which is city property. It's 991. I'm sorry. So if you look at that item, like this previous years, had 25,000. We didn't have anything on there. So we have the CAP program. We're actually going full swing with that program here shortly. We have a lot of property owned by the city, just lost revenue, just sitting there. Nobody's doing anything about it. So I had a I had a meeting with Mr. Miyake and also our emergency manager, Mr. Gavin. We're gonna have a meeting here in the next few days, maybe a week. We gotta talk about this property. So this number is gonna go way above that number from the previous years because we have, I mean, I can't even count how much property we have just sitting there and collecting dust, basically, not doing anything. We're spending money on maintaining that property as well. So that's one of the things like I said earlier, we have a great team in place right now. We're assessing everything on this budget. There's a lot of wasted money just sitting there, nobody's utilizing. We're cutting a lot of costs on, wasted money that we're, like in the past, we go to consultants before we actually go through the expertise that we have in the city. I mean, Councilman Muscat brought that up in the past. I don't want to mention companies' names, but we're paying companies hundreds and thousands of dollars in consulting fees that we can actually pay somebody within a city that actually can give us the same advice. So all that stuff we halted. So this budget, as mentioned, by the time you guys get a chance to approve it, it's going to be a lot better than what it is right now because of some of the cost cutting that we're doing, unnecessary cost cutting.
Can I point out one more thing? I'm sorry, just one last
Sure,
thing.
go ahead, Comptroller.
I said to myself, I was going to mention this in my little introduction, but Mr. Jamal, has been, we have basically, it's kind of a new position here and he's working on grants and he's working on compliance issues. So together we're trying to get stuff, like we said, back in line. So, I mean, I'd like to acknowledge a lot of the work that he's doing. I didn't mention it, so I just want to give him some credit, some thanks and appreciation and before I sign off, I guess. So.
Next. For our budget hearing, we have Human
Council
Resources Director.
Council Chair, I think you forgot me. I had my hand raised a few times.
But you took it down. I didn't.
No, I didn't. I hit it and.
Okay. Leave it up next time. Okay, let me put it down. I'm sorry. I thought you had changed your mind. Go ahead, please.
And that's understandable. I just want to let everyone know that, the questions that were asked by Councilman Abdel Haq, he and I have worked on budgets and things for a few years now, along with Mr. Jamal. So some of the questions that I have already been asked and answered. So I don't want it to be redundant. So I just want to let everybody know that I have been working with them and they're doing a great job. So there's no really a reason for me to take up more time than asking the same questions over and over again. So that's just a statement here.
Mr. Jamal.
Hassan Jamal and Abdel Haq for their help.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jamal, go ahead, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Jawad. Thank you, the new Chief of Staff. Sometime, in the heat of this meeting, we forget her role. She played a great role in developing this budget. Her name is Mariana Hernandez. And I thank the mayor for hiring somebody at that particular, level of knowledge, understanding of very complex financial, accounting, regulatory, and compliance. Let's move on. Let's the council understand, specifically, the new council, that they report to the council, which mandated by the charter from the treasury and from the controller, one on behalf of the mayor and one on behalf of the treasurers. There are two different reports. The mayor reports on the general ledger account, telling the council what we spend and what we received and the percentage between both. The treasurer report on fund. So when the treasurer receives money, it goes to fund. It doesn't go to GL. The treasurer doesn't have access to the GL. It goes to the fund. And over the years, that particular report never been provided. Never, ever so far being provided to you. It tells you how much money you have in every fund of the city, including water, including even the tree fund, even the, what we call, ski club fund. You will look at it and you will know how much the treasurer received revenue, taxes, or whatever revenue will receive fees, and it attached to you the cash register that her part of approving all the expenditures. So when you receive both, you will compare them so you know whether it's reported correctly by the controller compared to what's being done by the treasurer. It's the check and balance. Cutting that short, you did not have that check and balance provided to you. That resulted in $6.28 million CSO, overcharge, over taxation. I don't know, I'm looking at the sanitation like Mr. Baddy, the new controller, he picked it up. He said, Hassan, what's going on here? We have money left over and so let's look at all this. So right now, I assure you, I am assure the council, like Mayor Bazzi told me, please, Hassan, we are a team. The Mayor Bazzi, thank you. He formed a budgetary team. He is the chief, Mariana, Badri, myself, Shantae, and the human resource. The human resource really control all the fringe benefit, the changing of the study, the calculation. So that team is really working very hard on your behalf to make sure that the final budget document you will have, it is as accurate as it can be, with probably 10 to 15%, what we call in contingency, because we're doing a forecast for next year. We are working together on the grant. We are sure it's going to be $600 million for us putting in the bank through the state, some of them through the county. We will have to provide project, and we will get our portion from that. We will be working hard on your behalf, and the mayor is trying to do ever possible to be as accurate as we can, because he was on the council before and he struggled with the previous budget like you are doing right now. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Human Resources Director Sabota Perry.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I cover 3 areas. It would be starting on the original document. It would be Civil Service Commission, Department 220, which is page 17, Department 221, which is Act 78. So these are easy in that there's no changes in either. So the general government, Department 220, that Civil Service Commission oversees the hiring, the promotion processes for non-police and fire. So that would include all the clerical, Department of Public Works, library personnel, ordinance, any sort of deputies within the general government system. And Act 78 is, according to state law, that oversees the hiring and promotional processes for both police and fire. As you know, there are openings, right? So we have openings in Department of Public Works. We foresee an opening in the library. We will have openings in the 911 dispatch. And that's what these departments, Department 220 has been funded so that we can continue the testing process, advertise, test, and interview those candidates. Of course, in police and fire over the past couple of years, we've had promotionals and we've brought on a lot of new people as you've been a part of the swearing in, and we will continue to do that. With every retirement means an opening, and that usually means a promotional process. So that's what we will continue to do, just as much activity this year or in the next year as we've been doing in the last few years. So there's no changes there. Then if you want to, if there's any questions I can answer before I move on to my budget.
Any questions in regards to what she just discussed?
Madam Chair.
Councilman Abdullah?
Okay, the Civil Service Commission, those are mayor's appointment, right?
No, not in all cases. Yes, he has one appointment in each commission. It's a commission of 3 people. This is true for both, okay? And then this is how both of them actually work. So one appointment is the mayor's appointment, and then there's appointment of all of the people that they represent. So for the general government civil service, it would be all the civil service employees. So ballots actually go out through the clerk's office, and they nominate, and then they vote on the representative that they have. And then the third, and that's true for also Act 78, that would be for police and fire. They all get ballots and they pick their representative. Then the 2 commissioners then have their choice of the 3rd commissioner. That's true for both Act 78 as well as the general government. Please keep in mind that the General Government Civil Service Commission, those appointments are 3 years, maximum 3 years. And then the Act 78, according to the state law, is a 6-year term.
Could you repeat who's the 6 years?
That's for Act 78, sir.
Okay. Now,
We have a fully staffed civil service commission in both areas.
Act 78, was it established by the city council or by the people voted on it?
No, that was established by the state of Michigan in, I want to say 1935. And it's by charter that our police and fire classifications follow Act 78.
Okay. I'll ask the question privately. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions before she moves on to the rest of her budget? Go ahead.
Okay, so then the rest of it is, if you're following along, we skip a few pages, and my department is 226, Department 226.
Can you
And
give
so-
me, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you give me what page?
Yeah,
Page
no,
21.
yeah, I was gonna say, page 21 and 22.
21.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, this coordinates with one of the things that Badri had included in his sheet with a change to the compensation. Again, it sounds like you want to have that discussion at another point, but there's no other changes beyond that. So there's no change in part-time personnel, there's no change in supplies, no change in dues and memberships, and no change in training.
Next, we have Councilman
Can I
Abdullah.
just say can I just say one thing, if you don't mind?
Yes, go ahead.
So just as a basic reminder, so as the HR department, I just feel that it is important for me to advocate some sort of strategy. And I am excited because it seems that the council is very interested in developing a strategy for total compensation. It's not only that we want to retain people, it's also that we want to attract people that have credentials, that have a commitment to the city of Dearborn Heights. This administration, of which I'm a part, we're committed to investing not only in the managers, but into all of our people, all of our city employees. This is going to be a contract year for many employees. And that's why you might question, why aren't there raises for certain classifications of employees? And it's because this is a negotiation year. We really, as a city, need to prioritize, of course, the investment of our people, because that's what makes our city so great. And to continue to, we need to work to provide them a living wage and something that they can aspire to as they grow throughout their career here. Now, keep in mind, I'm not only the HR director, I'm also the resident, and I've been here for 14 years. So I know the struggles that this city has had. I know the struggles that our residents and my neighbors have had, and I'm sensitive to it. We could do an independent study if you deem this a priority, and we could go out to bid and search a proposal for an independent compensation study. Now, I warn you, whatever the study shows, it's usually in the best interest of the city with regards to the personnel than to have some commitment behind it. I feel that you will see most of our employees are underpaid. Many of the entry-level salaries are coming in at $14 an hour. And that isn't a lot of money, and that isn't necessarily enough for a living, provide a living wage. And so that would be something for you to direct me, the mayor, to start on, and I'd be more than happy to do it. If I can answer any questions related to, personnel issues, my door is always open, and the coffee's always on, as many of you know.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Abdullah.
So this question is for our HR director. It's multiple faceted. So first of all, in regards to your salary increase, you mentioned something, and I just want to know as a council, from the council chair, do you want to discuss these all at the end, or do you want to discuss them department by department?
Department by department probably be easier because I don't know if they'll stay until the end.
Okay. I do know in this particular case, I think it's well-deserved for our HR director. Not only do we have one of the best in the state, but I also know that she took a voluntary pay cut at one of the council meetings. I recall at one of the, it wasn't even, I don't even think it was budget time. And she voluntarily decided to come down on her salary, which was very honorable. So in this particular case, I think it's well-deserved. But what I'd like to discuss, we talked about what people are paid. And I've always been a believer in paying people better money so you can get better qualified type of employees. You mentioned as far as how much the pay is, there's a thing that we used to get, and I don't know, maybe we should send them to all the council members from Wayne County that shows all the different cities and how much the different pay scales are for similar department heads. So that's something that we may be willing to compare. But I think where we have to decide as a council as a whole is, are we going to give raises? And this is where the debate always in my head. Do you give raises all across the board to all the directors to make it quote unquote fair? Or do you make it the other angle of being fair based on justifications? Does this person deserve it? Or does this particular director, maybe it's better to wait another year before we give them a raise? Just like I talked about earlier with the controller, which again, I'll repeat, very well qualified. But do we start with raises right off the bat, or do we wait until they've earned the additional raises? So this is the direction we got to decide which direction we're going to go so that we're fair across the board, as we give raises. I also had, no, that was the only question. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, because I was going to say that would be what we would do during budget wrap up, our last meeting is
Right.
what we decide everybody would get. And at
But
that
I'm just
time-
saying that's something we got to decide. Is it across the board or is it on a
Right, we
case
would
by case
discuss it.
basis?
And
That
Mr.
day.
Abdullah, Mr. Abdullah, so Conference of Western Wayne County does publish a salary survey.
Right.
I have them. I would be happy to share with anyone. The problem is in 2020, because of the stress of the directors, they did not publish one in 2020. So the last one we have is 2019. Be happy, people are shaking their heads. I will get it scanned and sent it to you. When I said about the study, we have a next door neighbor that did a compensation study. So it's interesting what happens, right? You get a study and you find out that you're underpaid. Well, if the entire city finds out they're underpaid, and then we don't necessarily have the money to commit to bring everyone up to a level or strategy to bring people up to level, guess how morale changes, right? Then you have a bunch of people, right? So it's very, people come here for different reasons, right? People stay here for different reasons. I came here for a different reason. I am committed for a different reason beyond compensation. But there is something about attracting new talent and providing certain wages. And you will see this as when you ask me how many people applied for labor, how many people, if it's a lower wage, they might not be committed to the testing process. Why would I put myself through this? It's only $15 an hour. I'm in a 1 month testing, interviewing. I don't need that stress. It's only $15 an hour. So there is a fine balance, and it's a balance.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I first want to say about what a good job Elizabeth and Mary Ann do and have done throughout the pandemic. Great job. Two questions. Number one, about the drop program and basically how it is administered. So if a police officer or firefighter wants to go into the drop, is that a decision made by the chief? Is it a decision made by the mayor? Or is it a decision made also by your office?
Okay, so And thanks for the nods, because you're right. I am so lucky to have the staff I do. Between Marianne and Megan, who's my part-timer, they are first-class employees. They're great human beings, and they're both residents, and I am so blessed to have them on my staff. So thank you for saying that and giving me an opportunity to say that. With regard to the drop, it's very simple. If they meet the qualifications as defined by their collective bargaining agreement, that's what these are in, collective bargaining agreements, then that's it. I have no say in the process, nor does the chief. And we can't handcuff people to their chairs and make them stay forever. That'd be illegal.
So if a police officer wants to go into the drop, that's between him, his bargaining unit, and the administration?
So does he meet the qualifications? On their first day of employment, they might want to be in the drop. They don't qualify though. You have to meet the qualifications, and that's time served on the department, plus if they elect to buy pension time.
All right, thank you. I'm, as Councilman Zuhair Abdul Haq is worried about the overuse of that program. And then the part-time, the 20,000, is that for the, what I'll call the second assistant Megan in your budget on page 21?
It is, and I've used that in the past also for additional interns, college interns, if I've had the opportunity. So yes, that's exactly what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Abdul Haq.
Madam Chair, just off the subject, are we going to have a study session on the Act 345 in the drop on the 6th of May?
Councilman, we already confirmed that through email
Okay, thank you.
with John Riley. This is not the place for this. Next, I have Councilman Baydoun.
I didn't finish my comment.
Okay.
I agree with Elizabeth very much about the underpay of the employees, especially the entry level of the police department and the fire department. And we need to attract the best talent possible to our city, and we need to pay them the right amount of money. Now, I will ask every director and the mayor, please, to do an annual evaluation for every one you appoint, so we know when you come up with a number to give them why they get in that amount of money. And we shouldn't give everybody across the board the same thing, because some people perform different than other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Baydoun.
And I thank you so much, Madam Chair. And so I have a couple of things here. I know when I did the ride along with an employee with DPW who do a phenomenal job, one of the concerns was to me, Mo, we get paid $14 an hour. I make the same amount of money that somebody at Taco Bell makes. And here I am trimming up a tree. Here I am fixing a water line. Here I am doing all this work. But it's like, man, this person is getting paid $14 an hour. So to me, hearing this from a union employee, I said, you know what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward here and making sure that these jobs, the juice is worth the squeeze. Because I'm going to tell you right now, $14 an hour, I'm not going to be giving my full commitment. I'm not going to get into work excited and happy and feeling this joy of working for the city of Dearborn Heights. As much as I want to get back to my city of Dearborn Heights, and thank you to the employees that do, but $14 an hour just doesn't cut it. I'll go work at Taco Bell, roll up some burritos, and call it a day. So I think it's imperative that we have some type of meeting in support of these employees. And and I looked at, and with all due respect to each and every single department head, I know Councilman Abdullah said our director of HR, Elizabeth Perry, took a voluntary pay cut. I mean, that just, not all heroes wear capes in my eyes. And that just, that was something that she did. It was so great. And I think she's definitely earned her raise back. But, I look at also, the clerk, who works in there tirelessly every single day, getting paid $39,000 a year. I mean, if that's a full-time job, making $39,000 a year, I live by this motto: you want good employees, you pay good employees. You don't want good employees, you pay low, bad employees. You don't pay them as well. So I think there needs to be definitely some adjustments. And I know that we want to give all of our department heads. I'm all about giving everybody raises if we have it, but we also have to look at all the employees, not just the department heads, because we know that the employees that are also working for these department heads are putting in their day in and day out as much as our directors are. So I feel that everybody, if somebody's going to get a raise, and somebody's been with this company, for example, I know who works in the clerk's office or in the HR's office has been with us for a very long time. I think, seeing from the past, she hasn't gotten a raise. $39,000. That's $1,625 every 2 weeks, guys. My family wouldn't be able to survive off of that.
Thank you.
So I just want that
Next.
for something that to be able to resonate with you guys. And so when my colleagues make that decision, we really sit back and think about that.
Thank you. Next, we have Mayor Bazey. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Council Chair. Just to answer one of the comments Councilman Constant brought up with Act 345. So there is a study session, and I will have a presentation for the council and whoever's online to talk about the 345. And also we'll have the actuaries. So we're prepared for the presentation for that day. And also to answer Councilman Baidoon's concerns about the pay raises for the individuals. If anybody falls under the union, that's something totally different. We have to wait for the contract negotiation, which is for the TPOM. Most of us, the ones that were on council from the last contract I think that was in 2018, we discussed that, there was a lot of gaps and there was a lot of issues signing that contract for the TPOM, and some of the employees that you have in question or concerns fall in that contract. So this year we will be in June. By June we will have to have a new contract for those employees. So we are looking at it, and Director Elizabeth and I, and also their union, we already had our initial meeting to discuss opening up for new negotiations for this year and to address the concerns that you just had, Councilman Baidoon. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that, Mayor. And I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. Whenever these next meetings are, I don't know if they're public or if they're not. But if you can send out a request maybe to the council as well to be able to shine in on that, that would be great.
No, it's one of our study sessions we have scheduled in May already.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
We're getting off subject here. At this time, we will move on to our police department. We have Chief Myers. Go ahead, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, council members, Mr. Mayor, everybody that's here. You see the proposed budget in front of you. As for staffing, there's some recognizable changes in there. I would address any of them as they come up. Any of the changes you see from the current year to the requested year, I have justifications for, so I would really like to just open it up to the council and for any questions they might have on this budget.
Councilman Abdullah, you're muted.
Okay, Chief Myers, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Couple questions. First question is, I noticed on the deputy chief that went from the current budgeted to half. Now I know our deputy chief is going to be retiring. What is the current status on that one? Why is that going to half? Or is that something that I should ask the mayor about? And I also had a couple of other questions, but let's start with that one if you don't mind.
You're going to have to ask the mayor what his reasoning is. I don't agree with the cut.
Okay, so Mayor Bazey,
Mayor, go ahead.
we're gonna be canceling out. It appears to be that we're canceling out a deputy chief position, and I'm just wondering the thought process behind that.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Abdullah. And this is some of the concerns that some of the council members have brought up in the past. When I was on council, that we had for 3 years we had 3, or actually now 4. Different chiefs in less than 4 years time frame. So we wanted to actually, one is for right now we got to take it out. We can do a budget amendment later, but just trying to make sure that everything comes to our office with. We just want to make sure that when we do bring a chief, it's one thing is it's going to be long term. And, a lot of concerns from residents and also some of the council members. I don't know if you were one of them that addressed it in the past, but I know I've heard it from several council members in the last, month or so since I've been here, that we have to make sure that that position, I mean, obviously it's not going to be deleted. We can discuss that later. It's going to be, up to all of us, just to make sure that we have, transparency. We're not just going through the rank and just make sure that we have, the particular position. When you go up to the chief, you spend 6 months, 8 months and retire, then just puts a burden on our budget in
Yeah,
our city.
text me about it and I'll text you back what kind of case.
Madam Chair, if I can respond.
Chief Myers.
I'm going to respectfully disagree. I believe the spot of the Deputy Chief Police is extremely important. We have finally got into a spot in our dynamics here at the police department where we have one chief, one deputy chief. The burden, as you can see, is about $45,000. This is a contractually obligated spot to be tested from captain. It's a negative impact on morale by taking the opportunity to promote through the ranks here. It's a civil service position. It's currently in a letter of understanding that this is the makeup. That's 25% of the administration. So right now the deputy chief is responsible for the maintenance and care of the 77,000 square foot facility. They also write for the grants that we get on a regular basis here. They also are responsible for the fleet, for the overall administration of many of the items that go on the non-operational side of the police department. When you take away that 25%, that puts down all those responsibilities to the officers and the supervisors that are supposed to be maintaining the operations of the day-to-day of the police department. That means your lieutenants that are supposed to be monitoring dispatch will now be writing grants. That will be and providing service to the citizens. I believe that this spot is absolutely valuable. Matter of fact, we've become the 10th safest city because we've been able to streamline the police department to be more effective. When I started here in 1997, we had 101 police officers. We now do it on an 83-person budget for police officers. So we have cut the fat at the top over the course of the last 2 decades. I believe this spot is invaluable. And I believe that taking this away from the officers that have dedicated their career to here, not just to start, but to make it up through the ranks, through the civil service process, to make it to a level where they can administer the police for the citizens of Dearborn Heights is wrong. And my request would be that the council add that deputy chief back in as full time. I strongly disagree. And I would be happy to answer any questions about the position. I don't agree with this move. Thank you.
Council Chair. So just to continue my questioning, I'll be honest with you, Mayor. I see your point. I definitely see your concern because I had the same concerns when we had turnover as far as the police chiefs are concerned. And you're right, we had 3-4 of them within, I think, roughly about a year period. So I totally agree that that was definitely problematic based on the way the lines were set up to end up like that. But I don't agree, though, at the same time, that if we got rid of a deputy chief, that would solve that problem. I don't see how, personally, how that would solve that problem. So that's something we got to address. Another 2 things that I want to address with the chief, if you don't mind, is, well, first of all, I want to give you guys kudos because one of the first things that I worked with previous chiefs on or talked to about is diversity in our police department. And I give you guys kudos for continuing to have a diverse police department, not necessarily with exact percentages based on a diversity in the city, but at least just diverse in hiring, whether it's women, African Americans, Arab Americans, et cetera, et cetera. I love the diversity in the direction you've been going. So good job on that. 2 things that I want to ask you about is, number 1, if you could address the body camera situation, because I didn't notice that in there, and what the status is on that. And I think this is something that's very, very important that we have as a part of our police department. And then number 2, with dispatch, at least it appears, I know this is not a vote, but at least it appears that we are going in a direction where we're not going to have possibly a combined dispatch. And with that being the case, I'd like to see what is your preparedness for continuing our dispatch and improving it at this particular point.
So I'll start with the body
Body cam.
cameras. Your council had approved us to go out for a request for bids for our body camera system. Those have returned. We're currently in the testing phase. I'm going to have to once again defer to the mayor. I do not know where the funding went, and I'm going to have to ask how we intend to pay for that system.
Mayor? Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, again, we talked about the budget being fluid. We still have about a month or so to finalize it. We are looking for Hassan Jamal is actually looking for funding for grants, and he's got one or maybe two leads that he's actually checking into right now. Hopefully, by the time this budget's approved, we will have that that grant. If not, then we would have to revisit to see where we can put something on the budget. But from Mr. Jamal, Hassan Jamal's meetings that we had, a couple times in the last couple weeks, that he's looking for, he has ideas about funding, and he's been in meetings about funding for the body cams.
Thank you.
Is it possible we could use it from the 25 million?
That's also, that is a possibility. Anything that, COVID related, and again, there's a lot of stuff, everything is fluid. We're getting a lot of feedback from the congressional delegates about where we can use the money. But I did ask that question, and right now it looks like we can. But again, I'm not gonna count on anything till I see something in writing and concrete, something from the government. So it does look like a possibility.
Okay, then Chief, regarding dispatch, please.
Yeah, well, to one last topic on the body cameras, there is always, as we get these bids back, this is something that's can be financed over the course of 5 years. So to give you a ballpark on the RFPs, you're looking at $1 million for the system, roughly $200,000 a year for the next 5 years. There are grants that we can obtain through MMRMA. We will do those, but you have to purchase the equipment before you can get those grants, or actually know that they're approved. So I believe that the unions, both the patrol, the supervisor, officer, are 100% supportive of this idea. I hope we can make these body cams happen in this budget. I know the mayor believes in them, so I'm not disagreeing that the mayor's not trying. He's trying to do his budget. I believe he believes in it. I believe the council believes in it. I'm not aware of these talks between Mr. Jamal. I've not been privy to them, so I can't answer what's been going on those. But I know the mayor's committed to the body cameras. He's just trying to find a way. So I don't want you to think that the mayor's not committed to them. As for dispatch, I was given the opportunity or asked by the mayor, Mayor Bazzi, to present what it would take and what it would cost to go to another agency, and what it would take both in cost and manpower to operate a professional public safety access point. They're no longer just dispatch centers, they're public safety answering points. I provided that. I provided the management that would be needed and the supervision and the number of dispatchers that would be needed. Those were in the presentation. Those numbers were in my requested budget. Those numbers are not there now, so I'm not able to answer why the modeling is different and what was presented.
Well, the reason I asked, Chief, because if you look on there, under department proposed salary, you had 61,000 for PSAP manager, you had 39,000 for dispatch supervisor. But then when you go to the proposed budget, 21-22, it was not in there. If you go to the last line to the right, it was not in there at all. There was zero.
I can only defer to the people who built the budget that was proposed. I had requested it. It's not in there.
Mayor, can you answer that?
Yeah, so for those, okay, so we're already operating here right now with the short staff we have for the dispatch. They have been operating without those two positions. And now in our budget, we increased the staff for dispatch. So, and also if you look at other brainstorm or benchmark other department, they don't have, the city of our size have those positions.
So I'd like to say, as far as the body cams being put in the budget, I have to agree on that. I'm more proactive. I would put them in the budget, and if we do get some kind of grant, then take it back out because the budget is fluid, but at least we've got something definite in place to get us our body cams. Next, we have Councilman Baydoun.
I believe Vince had his hand up before me. It's up to you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Councilman, but this is for council people only.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Drapkowski, there will be public comment at the end. I can leave your hand up if you like, so you could be first. Okay.
So I kind of also want to speak about the cutoff of the deputy chief. I come from a family of law enforcement and, understanding the rankings in law enforcement. I'm not saying that, well, I don't know where we would stand if there would still be a deputy chief if we were to eliminate the pay rate. I'm assuming not because there's no money there. But I would also like to just let know HR chief, mayor, I wouldn't like to see that we cut out that position. I mean, until we, can potentially get a understanding as to why, but I also have to say to the mayor, I see where he's coming from. We're seeing that there've been changes in chief of police's, so, gradually where a lot of the residents or maybe even the mayors haven't even really gotten to know these new chiefs, but I can see right now, I know Chief Mike Myers is young, he's athletic. Last time I spoke with him, I think he was out doing an athletic event. So I'm sure he's going to be with us for a pretty long time, young man. But I don't also see that deputy chief position is a position that we should be letting go and not be funding for. So I would ask that the mayor try to, work with his chief of staff and maybe the controller and to seeing how we can amend this to make sure that we don't lose the pay. I know that he's retiring in December. And, there's going to be up in the rankings. A lot of these officers who have been with the force for, however many years that they have are now finding out that deputy chief position isn't there no more. I can't see myself grow within the ranks. And sometimes it's upsetting. So
I'm gonna stop you there. We do have budget wrap up, and that's where we would add it back in. It would be up to us at this point. I know this is your first budget. So I just wanted to let you know.
Well, with that, the next thing I have is the dispatch. I think that's also something that we need to budget in for. I know that, and nothing against any of the dispatchers, but I think there always needs to be some type of leadership where somebody is there overseeing all the dispatchers. And that can be one of the dispatchers who's been there for 8 years. We can maybe give her, not the role of the manager, but I'm sure we can give them a little bigger of a raise because I know that's what Dearborn does right now. They give, I think all the employees can make like 20, one makes 24 or 25. The one that makes 25 is the manager at the time. So maybe we can work something out there with the dispatch, but I do believe that there needs to be some type of management there as well. And then just the last thing that I have is, that's all I had. That's all I had written on there.
Thank you. Next, I have Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And briefly, Chief and Mayor. So under dispatchers, I see the current budget and proposed is both 13 dispatchers. So, and that's a total of about in salary, 500,000, if I'm reading that correct. If we join the Dearborn area dispatch, we wouldn't have that expense, but then we'd have our pay our share to pay into the city of Dearborn for using their dispatch, correct?
Yes, I mean, from the presentation, you've got the ballpark numbers, what it would cost us, what it would cost to go to a combined dispatch, and what it would cost to maintain ours. I'm open to both. I want us to have a professional, a top-notch, a state-of-the-art, life-saving system here at Dearborn Heights. for our citizens. And if we keep it here, I think we need to have it done correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the body cameras, I know that we will get a discount on our liability insurance for our officers if we have the body cameras. And then the FOIA coordinator, who's going to do the constant FOIA requests that we get, like, for example, from the different law firms for police reports and so forth?
Right now, we have our records department that fulfills the FOIAs as we currently do. That FOIA coordinator was added as because we know the demand that the body cameras would do. If the mayor believes that we're able to continue with the current level of staffing, I'm not going to dispute that because I don't have any statistics because we don't have the body cameras that would support or contradict that. So that to have that position not in there right now, I can understand because we don't have the data to support that. We would need the increased personnel to cover those. It's a wish list item, but it might something we have to reevaluate if we get the body cameras and we realize that just the pure amount of data that needs to be reviewed would need another person. So I believe that the way it's set right now is acceptable in its form.
All right, thank you. You did a lot of the IT stuff before you became chief, isn't that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Chief Myers?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Hassan Jamal. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Responding to the chief, just to clarify, Chief Myers, there is about so much confirmed about $2 million by Lieutenant Martin, and we supposed to have meeting to clarify what's really being expended but not received yet. There's about approximately $2.5 million coming back as a reimbursement for a lot of the public safety. We will discuss that. So there will be money for the body camera. And I will assure you, from discussion with the mayor, that the 200,000, whatever, for this coming fiscal year will be there. We just want to finalize how we can deal with this millions of dollars coming as a reimbursement, whether you need it back in your budget or it can be like an addition, because you already spent that money on salary and other things. So there will be money there. Now for the grant, there is indication that this $25 million, there will be a lot of money for law enforcement. And the state also have some programs that we missed in the past. So now, from now on, Captain or the Deputy Chief Violi will be involved with us, me, Deputy Chief, and Lieutenant Martin and Mariana. We will be working very hard on your behalf. We will find every penny we can, find for the public safety. Personally, I am a very advocate for public safety. Beyond my job, it's my personal belief that whatever public safety needs, this is the backbone of the community, any community. So I'll assure you, and I shared with with the Deputy Chief Violi, a couple of grants in terms of the new technology you was talking about. Instead of using lethal, we may be able to help, or you gotta get involved yourself if you like. There's a new, I think you advocating for that too. So be assured that whatever the public safety needs, whether it is law enforcement or fire, I am working unlimitedly to find any possible grant. But again, $2.5 million coming to the city coffer. Later in July, you will have your share back, and we can discuss whatever you need in that department.
Thank you, Mr. Jamal. And I appreciate his words, because that just goes to further emphasize why the deputy chief spot is so important. So we can work with Mr. Jamal on obtaining these grants so public safety succeeds. So it's just another reason why the deputy chief spot is so important to have.
Chief, I can't comment on that. It's your expertise. The mayor also came from a Marine a police force. So you guys can whatever I can help both of you to do whatever good, I will. But we are a team. Your deputy is with us, myself, Mariana, Lieutenant Martin. The mayor actually commissioned us to be a grant team, and we are working wherever we can.
Thank you.
Next, I have Councilman Abdullah.
So Chief, I had two more questions, if you don't mind. One of them is senior office pay, officer pay, $90,000. Can you please describe to us what exactly that is?
So when according to the collective bargaining agreements, when an officer reaches so many years, it's an incentive during that time frame. I believe it's 2% that they get of their base salary. So I want to say it's after 7 years of employment. They get 2% of their salary in a senior patrol pay.
So in this particular case, it's not for one particular officer, it's across the board?
It's for every member that has over that many, that contractually bargained amount, which I believe is 7 years.
Okay. And the other question I had is, in your proposed budget, the emergency manager coordinator appears that the salary is going from $55,620 to $75,000. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was at the
Was that on the mayor's?
Yeah.
Of the mayor? So, Mr. Mayor, can you describe to us what the thought process is in that particular case? And the second question I had, and I'm not sure if you would be able to answer that, or if maybe our HR director, if the emergency coordinator position, is that something that's mandated by our charter, must be there, or is that just an elective position that we decide to have? Please.
Okay, so I'm not sure if, I thought the council chair wants to address the salary pay raises at the end for the end. Is that one of them, or?
Well, I guess he's questioning it, and whether we adjust it or not would be at the end. He's just questioning your thought process.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because you set the rules and I'm just following them.
Okay. Yeah, no, if we're going to change the number, we do it at the end. But if they got questions on the different numbers, this is the time for them to ask so they can think about it more before the end.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's, again, we're trying to go with all the positions that directors across the board, as Director Elizabeth mentioned, for the positions. You want to try to maintain the talent in those positions, and not just, somebody bouncing from our city to another city, once they get the experience. So that's the worst thing to do is, just like any entity, you go into, even corporate America, you go in for a position, you gain the experience with a company at a lesser pay. And since, there's no contract negotiations with the directors, they're just, appointed by the mayor. They can just come in, gain experience at a lesser pay, and just bounce, like we've had in the past. And there's stuff that I can't obviously talk about personnel issues, but, especially in public, usually for personnel issues, we discuss them in closed sessions, but I'll be more than happy if any council member wants to come to the office here. I'll sit down with you individually, obviously, in no more than 3. And I will discuss, the reasoning behind, some of the things without, violating, people's right, about pay and that kind of stuff. But we do want to maintain our employees. As I mentioned earlier, we have a great team, and those guys, and also, Elizabeth, as a director, and like all my directors, they're doing. Now we have a great team. They've been doing an amazing job. And again, I want to maintain the team in place, and I don't want them to just get the experience and just move somewhere else, because that will happen. And I've seen it many times, even in corporate. Like I said, when I was in corporate, people come in, they get the lesser pay, get the experience 1-2 years, and boom, move on somewhere else. And we can't afford that in the city. And as Director Elizabeth mentioned, when you do that kind of stuff, it just brings down morale. And that's something, it's since we've been here, we have, like I said, we have a great team, and the morale has changed in the city hall. Even residents have been saying, how positive it is coming to the city hall to conduct their business here. As far as for the emergency manager, that was something that was, the position was already in place when I got here. And obviously we do need that position, especially with the pandemic that we're in, and with COVID. Director Gavin, he's been doing an amazing job getting the residents and also our team aware of what's going on with this pandemic. I know in the history since I've been alive, I've never heard or seen anything to that extent that we're in right now, the situation in the United States. Obviously, I've seen it overseas, but not here in the US. But with him being in place, we're working on trying to get our residents vaccinated. And he's spending a lot of hours, as I mentioned, as other directors. But the emergency manager position is required, especially in the situation that we're in right now. It's very critical for us.
So then just to summarize, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, Mr. Mayor.
I think HR wants to weigh in on that also.
I just wanted to give you some context about that salary. So it pays approximately $13,000 less today than it did 13 years ago, right? 13 and 13. So in 2008, this was paying around 69,000, and today it's at, the 55,600. So that's where it was 13 years ago, was $13,000 higher. So that's what I wanted to mention. It is not in the charter. And as you know, with regards to it's been flood, you've relied on your emergency managers in the past for flooding events and other major storms, et cetera, where it's impacted the city in many different areas.
Okay, so lastly for the mayor, so then is the plan, Mr. Mayor, to give raises to the directors across the board at this particular point? And the reason I'm asking this so that we could, as a council, make a better determination, like I mentioned earlier, do we give them across the board? Do we give them on an individual basis? But I just want to see from your proposal is to give the directors, based on your proposal, directors a raise across the board, pretty much. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct, Councilman Protam Abdallah, is all the directors across the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call on 2 more council people, and I'm going to remind you, we've gone over time. We've got the next person to present waiting. So if we could shorten it, I would appreciate it. Go ahead, Councilman Abdel Haq.
I will pass my time, just go to the next person.
Are you sure?
I'm sure, yes.
Okay. Then we have Councilman Muscat. You took your hand up. Did you want to talk?
Yes, I did. I'm same with Councilman Abdullah Haq. I'll pass my time.
Okay. Next on the schedule, we have information technology with Director Feldkamp. Let me get him unmuted.
Very good. How are you doing today?
But you have Tarek here too?
Yes, I have Tarek on as well. So if you can unmute him, that would be great.
Looking for him. I saw him come in. Here he is. There he is. Okay, go ahead, please.
The purpose for our group is to basically implement the budget and the items that you wish to move forward on, and support all of the IT functions. We certainly give advice, but we do not necessarily tell you what you need. We look for your wants and wishes and how fast you want to move. The other day, Mariana shared with us a budget allocation and amounts that we actually hadn't seen before. It was the document that her predecessor would work off of and had not actually shared with us. So we've tried to support every activity that you've had and move you forward. We've moved you leap years ahead of where you were 5 years ago. We did that rather rapidly, and I think our support has been good. But the actual breakdown of the budget and the priorities have been a little bit of a mystery in terms of the communication of when and what priority certain items have. We've given numerous quotes on equipment and that sort of thing. We don't sell equipment. We simply support whatever you purchase. We do advise on the types of things. So we've tried to do the best job possible. But I'd like Tarek to kind of explain where we are in terms of the actual equipment, software, et cetera, to sort of give you an overview of how we work with your staff in city.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
So we've been engaged, to work with administration before and come up with a 5-year plan and put some budget estimates, and we've been working on that. Unfortunately, we have no way to enforce anything like who gets it and how it gets deployed. So before the administration, they would order equipment, and then we'll come back and get the notification and then deploy. With the new administration, we've been trying to encourage them that if we put the entire city on a 5-year cycle, we know exactly what's going to be replaced and when they're going to be replaced, then we can start on resources available to deploy. So we are looking at right now at what get budgeted and what is the year 2020 numbers that we can spend, and then we're going to start putting a list of priority to get purchased for 2020 and then plan for 2021 replacement of old equipment or anything that needs to be replaced, including hardware, software, and other projects. I know the mayor is requesting a lot of the services to go on the web and online and try to accommodate what's priority and what gets done first. There was some equipment that got purchased before that we are right now working with departments to deploy, and got a dedicated staff member at that Dearborn Heights City Hall and working exclusively on the deployment of that hardware. So,
thank you, Tarek.
Councilman Abdullah?
So thank you guys for all you do. But I do have, I'll be honest with you, a disappointment in something. A lot of the residents and some council members, and I know the previous mayor had talked about putting city inspections. I don't know if this is something I should speak with the building director, but putting city inspections online, certificate of occupancies, permits, et cetera, et cetera. And I know our current mayor has been one of the people that has been pushing for that also. The primary reasons, one of the things I talked to the mayor about is when people come into our city right off the bat, they're dealing with the building department. And then when people are leaving our city, they're dealing with the building department. I think it's a department to where top-notch services got to be given, and it is. But something that would help that department a lot by having a lot less people standing in lines, by having a lot of those things online. We've talked about this now. This is the 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th year in a row. I'm not sure the exact years, but definitely no less than 2 or 3 years. It's still not online. Is there any reasoning behind that?
Well, again, we take, looks like the mayor wants to answer that question, but we take our direction. We took our direction from the former mayor and chief of staff. And although we met with BSNA, we talked about that a number of times. I didn't see them pushing that forward. We have had conversations with both Mariana and the new mayor, And both have expressed an urgency to that, which we've already responded to in terms of getting quotes for them and talking about a plan for how much of that can be done with the 2020 dollars. So I'll let the mayor and Mariana speak to that piece of it and their intentions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paul Camp and Mr. Ismail for the presentation. So I know Chief of Staff Hernandez wants to say something as well, but for me, I want to thank your team for actually working with us. I know that you guys have been engaged with us on pretty much daily basis, trying to get everything online, as Councilman Pro Tem Abdullah brought up. And this is something we're working diligently, trying to make sure that we have, state-of-the-art system at the building director. As you mentioned, I've seen since I've been here, at the City Hall, I'm seeing a lot of activity going on at the building director, at the building department. And our building director, Mr. Watland, he's actually been engaged with day-to-day operation discussion on how to improve the process. And you're going to see when he presents his budget, we have some couple items that we added this year to the budget for the building department to optimize. And just as you mentioned, Councilman Pro Tem Abdullah, and a lot of real estate agents that come through here, they do stop here and they talk to me about efficiency or lack of efficiency in the department in the past. And so we do have already a quote, from IT, what it would take to upgrade the system with BSNA. And there is a proposal, but it came into the agenda. And again, I don't want to get in trouble with the council chair. I didn't want to, we had it like a day after we proposed, we sent the agenda. So I didn't want to add it to the agenda. So I'm adding it to the next council meeting, not this Tuesday, the following council meeting, for the council to approve that budget to upgrade our, BSNA, and just so we can go online permits and that kind of stuff. So you will see it on your on a budget request, not budget, I'm sorry. You will see it on the agenda, not this Tuesday, the following meeting, for you guys to approve that so we can automate it.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I've been unmuted, so I don't know if I'm allowed to speak at this point.
Yes,
Council
yes.
Chair.
You still want to, I'm sorry, Chief of Staff, did you have anything additional to add to that?
Yes, I just wanted to point out that we do have $102,776 left in our capital outlay for the current budget, the 2020 budget. So we are going to be using those funds to purchase these items for the building department, and not just the building department, but we are looking to improve the online payment systems across the city, including the treasurer's department, water department, ordinance, and so on. As Doug mentioned, I am trying to improve the communication that we have with them. That way they are fully aware of the funds that are available to them and when these projects need to be implemented. Another project that is absolutely one of my priorities is the integration of Microsoft 365, which had been approved by council back in 2019. So that is another part of the projects that are in line to go out. As Doug mentioned, they are currently deploying the 50 computers that had been purchased previously in 2019, 2020 period, December to January. So they definitely have their hands full. They are an amazing team who is providing all the assistance that they can and communicating with me and my questions as to why these things hadn't taken place. And I want to make sure that moving forward, when we do purchase an item, that they're involved in that conversation to make sure that it is possible to integrate it with our current systems and we don't have problems that we've had in the past.
Thank you. Next, I have Councilman Muscat.
Yeah, I just want to ask about the capital outlay. Do you have a plan of what the capital outlay is going to be spent on?
Okay, who is that for, Councilman?
Well, it would be for either Doug or Tariq there. We have requesting $108,000, and I see we've requested a high amount of dollars in previous years, but the activity was very low, only $5,000. So What are we doing?
If I can answer that generally, we have provided pretty much from day one a 5-year equipment replacement plan to cover the capital piece of that. That had been in the hands of the administration in prior years, but what never got shared back with us is what the timeline and goals for those, the spending of those dollars. We never understood or got feedback on whether the recommendations were going to be followed or they were going to be altered. So as a result, we would each year have, hurry up, let's purchase this, and this, and that'll be good for the years. The big change here has been Mariana has been arranging meetings with us to keep us informed as to what the goals of the city are, what the priorities of those goals are. And she has looked at that 5-year plan, and she shared the spreadsheet of how the budget is allocated, that's under her control, and so that we have a better idea of what money is actually there. We've given numerous quotes in the past for projects where we've been asked for the quotes. They've sat for several months, and then we're asked to get the quote again and again without knowing what the timeline was, what the real intention in terms of moving forward was. So I don't want to downplay the importance of having information as to what budget is available and what the priorities are. And I believe between the meetings that Mariana, Tarek, and myself have had, that's become much more clear. And the mayor has spoken to both of us on multiple occasions explaining his priorities as well. So that's been a welcome change. It allows us to plan our activities. Obviously, we share our time between Dearborn Heights and Dearborn, and we put in extra hours if we know we're working on something that is desired. We've allocated a body there for the majority of the week to do the rollouts so that we have consistency and get that done expeditiously. So we want you to succeed, but we need your administration to help us succeed by sharing those plans with us.
Council Chair?
Done a great job of that.
Muscat?
Yeah. When we allocate money for capital outlay, like say in this case, $108,000, and the money isn't spent, what happens? Is that liquid money? Is it just money on a piece of paper, or what happens to the money when you don't spend it?
General fund.
Where does it go? And can anybody answer that?
Madam Chair.
Can't hear you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, who are you directing that towards?
Well, to anybody that could answer it. I don't know if it was a comptroller or Mariana or Mr. Jamal Hassan, somebody that's knowledgeable about this. Where does the money go?
Madam Chair.
Excuse me, we've got Chief of Staff. Go ahead, please.
Excuse me, thank you. Mr. Muscat, thank you for your question. And just to answer briefly, the 5-year plan has a lot of items that are repetitive for the 5 years from the IT department, which include computers and servers that need to be upgraded throughout the city. And we are fully aware that the ones that are a priority right now are the ones from the clerk's office, because those machines are about 10 years old. So again, we are prioritizing what they are, but just to give you an idea of what the capital outlay may be for, it's typically going to be for machines, computers, and software. And that's going to be consistent moving forward for the next 5 years.
Okay.
As far as the capital outlay and what happens with those funds, we are discussing with Plant Moran. Mr. Jawad actually just raised his hand. So we have been discussing with them. Some funds would go to the general fund if they're unrestricted, and if they are restricted, they would go to the restricted accounts. But we are also working on a clear plan for that so that we're all aware of how much funds are left over. And I'm going to transfer it to Mr. Jawad now.
And I'm looking for a Zoom hand and I don't see him.
Do we, Councilor, when we get this money and it doesn't get spent, again, does it go to the general fund or does it come back to council to be redistributed? Because I don't remember money being redistributed from capital outlays. I don't ever remember voting on anything like that. All I know is we allocate the money and then, okay. And then we come back and somebody wants to buy something and always told it was approved in so-and-so year budget and that's it. But when money is left over, how do we know where it goes?
A great
Okay,
question.
so the money that you're seeing that we budgeted for that amount in that department. Now where the money comes from is a different story, right? So if we decided to spend on what we approved in the budget, or what you approved in the budget, then we draw the money from the account that it's tied to. If you don't use it, it's just not used. So it's not like the money's sitting necessarily in all cases in that specific budgeted account. It's that you approve to be for let's say general funds in some cases to be used for this specific account. Now, if it's restricted in a restricted revenue account, then that is sitting there basically waiting to be used for these restricted uses. All right, so there's no like actual money just floating there. You can see in our audits the fund balance. So that's like our overall balance that's left over after our revenues come in for the year and we expend it. So if there's anything left over, it goes into balance and we have cash sitting there that we can use for next year if we need it. And a lot of cities, municipalities, organizations tend to keep a certain amount in there to have some leeway and flexibility because emergencies happen like this COVID, right? So, you know, what we're experiencing now. So it's kind of it's an accounting thing. So, you know, and that's why they draw a bunch of different accounts from like specific bank accounts and things like that. And any of that stuff, you need that information, you can tell me and we can get it to you.
Just a reminder to the council people, just because we approve something in capital outlay doesn't mean the money has to be spent. We still have to approve the spending of that money because in previous years, that didn't happen. It didn't come before us and it was just spent. Okay. And I just want to make you all aware that we still have to approve all of that spending.
Yeah. You're approving the budget. But
correct.
Like
but we also approve the money from the budget to be spent from capital outlay. Somebody wants to buy a new truck, it still has to come to us, regardless if we approved $108,000 anyway.
Correct.
Just make that clear.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Abdul Haq.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two questions. We have purchased some, I think, some machines, and they are sitting in front of the door of the human resource for the last couple months. I would like to know when those going to be installed and why they have been sitting this long. Tariq or?
Yeah. Looks like the mayor wants to answer that.
Oh, I thought it was directed at you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilman Abdul Haq. So we do have a schedule for to actually put these machines in use. So we had to change a couple of the schedules. Just to give you an example, the clerk's office was scheduled to have one of the copy machines that you saw in the hallway, but Ms. Sinia from the clerk's office didn't want that one particular machine because of the excessive amount of usage that they have with the machine. So we had to get another machine allocated for her department. So we had to change. So the IT team is actually on schedule right now to get those machines implemented. And again, you know, since myself and Ms. Hernandez has been here in the office, we are working diligently with our IT IT team to get those systems, not just the copy machines. We have computers as well that they're trying to get them into the particular departments. Like say, for example, DPW had some stuff that were supposed to be deployed to them. And we had the comptroller's office. We have several offices that were supposed to be getting computers. So it's not just the copy machines. There's other items that you did not see there in one of the rooms. So IT team is working diligently trying to get those systems deployed to the particular departments that were supposed to be allocated for. So they are working on them daily.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The second question is, who has complete access to our email on the system? The city council members or anybody else? Is there any particular person in the city who can access all those emails, or there is security enough that we have privacy?
The,
Okay.
Balcamp, go ahead. Would you answer that, please?
yeah, the current email system is hosted externally. The only individuals that have administrative rights are myself and my team as necessary. We do not release anything from those emails to anyone without specific direction, and we would have to get that from the administration, the mayor's level. As people have changed positions, a typical request is if we have a person replacing someone else, we make sure that the leaving person's email is redirected for a period of time so that things don't fall through the cracks, bills don't get missed, and important notifications. But we've always asked that once they're stabilized and it's clear that that new person has taken over, we discontinue that process.
Okay, if let's say the mayor requests to look at somebody's email, do you notify that person that the mayor asked about their emails and he read their emails?
Ultimately, the email system is the property of the city of Dearborn Heights, and with the mayor leading it. So we would take our direction directly from the mayor's office. We do not take requests from other departments saying, hey, I'd like to look at someone else's email, or I'd like to look at this or that. Again, it really comes down to what is the purpose of the request. The police department ultimately, if they had a FOIA request or something, they would have access to addressing the FOIA on that sort of thing. But we take the privacy of that email very seriously, but the city email is the property of the city. So the employees should understand, and I believe it's been stated to everyone that that is not personal email. It is theirs to use, but it's ultimately the city's property, and it is all subject to FOIA. I have had, without mentioning names, a past employee that said, "Hey, can I get something that was in my email?" I simply directed that person to the mayor's office, and if I get approval through the mayor's office that information was to be released, then that I would comply. It's not my property. It's the city of Dearborn Heights' property.
Thank you.
Next, we have Councilman Baydoun.
Hey, thank you so much. And I just want to bring up a couple of things here. I know that I thank Mariana and Bill Bazzi for really, Mayor Bill Bazzi for focusing a lot of its resources and looking to expand our modern day technology. One thing to me that I think maybe we can look into also is, you know, as Councilman Abdullah said, people walk in, they're seeing the building director, they're seeing, you know, they're seeing the clerk's office, they're going to the mayor's office. Maybe we can budget, or maybe we can work something out with our IT, Tariq and Doug, to see if we can put up like a kiosk like Dearborn has, or some of these communities have, where they have kiosks, they set them up. You want to get a renew of a business license, you want to renew something like this, maybe not always having to go online because things can be a little bit more confusing, but being able to have a kiosk set up at City Hall, because I know I can go into Dearborn right now, go to my kiosk, pay my water bill. Now I have to see the treasurer, and you know, and I'm not saying that to take away any jobs from any of the employees, but I think it just kind of helps speeds up the process of, you know, people at City Hall and what they're able to do. That's my first question. The second thing is maybe for Councilman Abdul Haq, what you can ask, request is put a study session or ask to be put a resolution so that if anybody's willing to see somebody's emails, for example, the administration or the mayor, have it go before council, have the council vote on it. If it passes, go forward. If a former employee would like to see something, have it go. I mean, it's a check and balance regardless. Put it in front of the council. Council approves of it. Former employee, let's just say I had something on my email and I don't get reelected and I wanted to get something on there. I don't think the ultimate decision should sit at the, you know, the administrator or one person. Let the city council decide on that. And that's what, you know, we're here for. And that's what the purpose of a check and balance is. And then just my final statements are, Doug, can we, or Tariq, can one of us get an update? I know the mayor and Mariana are working on to making things more efficient online. Do we have a timeline on that, and when we would potentially start seeing that? I know I've spoken with the treasurer in the past, and she said she's working and she's working diligently to make sure that you can get online, pay for things online. And so thank you to the treasurer. But you know, when I have my neighbors call me and say, hey, Mo, I can't pay my water bill online. This is ridiculous. We're still stuck in the 60s. I say, you know what? We want to see your beautiful face in City Hall. Just come on down. That, you know, that excuse is eventually fading away and no longer being able to find any new excuses for that. So can we, Doug or Tariq, can one of you guys tell me what is the timeline on potentially being able to see ourselves to be reconciling with, you know, modern day technology today?
Councilman, this is a budget hearing and we're getting way over on getting off the subject. We should be sticking with what is actually.
Hey, Madam
on the
Chair,
budget.
and I get that, but one of the questions that I asked was having a kiosk. Maybe we can budget for that. What does something like that cost? So I'd love to hear from them, please.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Council Chair. So for the kiosk, Councilman Baidoun, I mean, thanks for the question. We're actually in discussion. We haven't budgeted for it, but we have talked about it. I know the Chief of Staff, Mariana Hernandez, myself, and I know talked to Tara and Doug about this, you know, a couple of times, and also discussing this with our directors. We are thinking about doing that, but right now we're just trying to what we budgeted for, trying to get up to speed on where I know most cities are at right now with online system with permits and everything else. But with the kiosk, we are discussing it. However, I mean, like, you know, like we keep saying, you know, this budget's fluid, you know, we can change it later. I mean, we can request a change to the council even after approved. You know, once we get, we have to, right now we're stuck in this, you know, like you mentioned, that's a good analogy with in the 70s on some things. But with the help of Doug and Tariq, you know, they're helping us get up to speed, you know, especially with the systems or the computers that they're deploying. We have to assess that first to see where we're at, you know, after everything has been deployed, then we get our building department with the automation that they need. And I know there's so much stuff that to discuss. I mean, we can't discuss it right now. It's going to take probably hours, but anytime you guys want clarification, please come here and I'll explain it more so I don't waste, you know, every council member's time and the residents. But we are working on trying to make everything efficient in a city so residents can use, like you mentioned, you know, kiosk and everything else. But we need a little bit of time just to kind of stabilize what we have right now.
And again, my main question, and thank you for that, Mayor. My main question is, what does something like that cost? Can we afford that? And maybe it was a question mainly towards Doug or Tariq.
Got Tariq here. Maybe he can answer it. He's got his hand up.
For the kiosk, basically, we worked with our treasury and with the vendor to deploy. There is a cost for the hardware, and we can just basically get a quote. Things are changing on a daily basis, so I'm not going to sit and or even try to give you a prediction of what the amount. I think we have so many projects, and what we're trying to do right now is just basically look at the allocated budget and try to spend as much as we can to upgrade basically the servers, the PCs. So when you bring projects like the automation, the online, we will be ready to deploy right away. We can put, the timeline, but the first thing we asked administration when we started, it's, my priority can be different than somebody else's priority. Every department think they are priority one. So we look at all the equipment, we look at all the scheduling and the resources we have available. And we ask administration, okay, you tell me what's really important to you. When we talked to the mayor, he said, well, I wanted to have the building department to be online. The first thing we did, we went to BSNA and requested right away, what would it take to go online for permitting, paying, be able to have residents to look at their permits, to a contractor to look at that. And we submitted that quote to administration so they can take it to you. So that becomes priority one. If you say kiosk is priority two, then we will make an adjustments, and that will interrupt other things that we are in the middle of working on. And we have all this equipment to deploy. So we wanted to make sure you're comfortable. We do not dictate who comes in first. We just say, this is all what we have. You tell me what's important, and then we reassign priorities accordingly to your requests, basically. So things might shift. Today might be number one, tomorrow, number three might come up to number one, depending on what you tell us is your priority.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Council Chair, if I may also, this is something when we, Councilman Baidoun, I don't know if you remember at the last council meeting, we mentioned our 5-year plan also, that I wanted all the council members to tell us what their vision is. And this is something that I'm trying to engage all the council members so we can write the 5-year master plan for the city to tell us what your vision is for the next 5 years. So we an administration can actually start implementing those changes so we can put it in a 5-year master plan. So this is a good item that you just mentioned for the kiosk, is to put that, put that as your vision, that what you want. Then we can, when I know that Wade Trim is actually, we had a meeting several days ago with a few people here with Mr. Shalmi and Mr. Deeb, our engineer, to come up with a 5-year master plan. And so they do have something drafted. So with that, before we release it, I'd like to get from the council members what their vision will be for the next 5 years, so we can incorporate that in the master plan. So this is a good one. So again, please send me your what your vision is for the city for the next 5 years so we can implement that.
You got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next we have Library McCaffrey. Did you still have something to say, or did you want to pass at this time? Because actually we're in your time where you should be presenting your budget. Okay, we are way over.
Yes.
I'm going to ask that the following questions are exactly to the budget and nothing more, because we need to move on. We're not on schedule right now. We're way off. Hassan Jamal.
Again, I apologize. I did not include the Deputy Chief Rios in our committee. He is part of the grant committee that the mayor formed. Secondly, regarding IT, unfortunately, this city is playing catch up. 2 weeks ago, we had an opportunity to apply for a grant through the regional, a grant application with Wayne County. We failed because we did not have plan, in place. Regarding Council Mascot question regarding where the balance goes. Our city works on only 3 different balances now, which is the pool, for the general fund, the pool for the library, the pool for the water fund, and other different fund outside the corporate fund, which is under the non-governmental fund. But when the balance of the capital outlays stays there, it goes back to the general fund balance. Now this is the catch up also. If you don't use the capital outlay money, you will show that your year is surplus. So I mean, it is the council members who should push where is this what projects are. You approve this outlays, and you should be following up on those outlays. And have a great day.
And last, we have Treasurer Hicks Clayton, and then after that, we will move on.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me? Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm muted. Good afternoon. I just wanted to share real quick to answer Councilman Baydun's question about the online payment platform. Since becoming treasurer, that has been a major priority for our office to get updated where it's one-click pay, including multi-sources, and the kiosk. So I wanted to say, as far as and I've talked to Doug Feldkamp about this, the mayor's office as well. But, you know, we wanted to bring in where you can, you know, purchase like your trash cans online, not have to physically go into City Hall and do it, and go from the mayor's office to the treasurer's office back to the mayor's office. So really simplify it where it's one-click payment, where you would also get reminders on your bills when they're due, your water bill, you get a receipt emailed, it'd all be, you know, electronically done, very efficient. And it's good for everyone. But what I wanted to say is, as far as the cost goes, the company, and we've interviewed several companies just to prepare for the council. We have what looks to appear to be a single source company who offers the kiosk, but not only that, but they're making the equipment available to us at no charge. And we're working through fee schedules right now before we present. So that really is in the final stretch, so to speak. But I know that the administration wants to get through the budget hearings first, but I just want to give you an update that I do have all that information if council's interested. Thank you.
At this time, we are going to move on to Library Director McCaffrey. I need to find him.
There he is.
Oh, there you are.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to do what I usually do with a quick overview. So far this fiscal year, the libraries are still staying on budget. Library is looking stable, and our projected fund balance will be projected to go higher as we continue to use prudent budgeting and save for major renovations and or emergencies down the road. So that's how I do a budget. I always have just a little bit extra each year so we can save for an emergency, or when the bond gets out in 2033 and the building is 30 years old, we can just use that fund balance to update the buildings instead of having to go out for a bond or having to levy something else. So that's the way I budget. So I just wanted to start off with that. The libraries were impacted drastically by the COVID epidemic this year, but continue to be a destination as we had over 186,212 visits last fiscal year between both libraries. These visitors checked out over 132,265 items, both in physical and electronic units. Patrons had close to 33,741 computer sessions. And we still had meeting and program use of over 7,384 visits. Of course, much of that was before COVID. This doesn't include Wi-Fi usage. These numbers are a drop, of course, based on the epidemic. During COVID, during the actual period that we've been going through, we had over 48,000 items picked up via curbside, over 39,000 crafts made for activity boxes that were delivered to homes, and put on over 317 virtual programs and 574 YouTube videos. So this upcoming year, I'm looking to open the buildings back up. Our residents have a high priority on coming in and browsing. A lot of people just love to do it. and study room use. So we're going to be doing that as soon as the case count locally just gets lower. It's the only thing I'm waiting for. After that, we're ready to go. So with that in mind, this upcoming year, we are going to continue in a positive yet responsible track on salary wages each year, tracking all the way out to 2033. Make sure we are meeting fringe benefit costs equitably with staff. Continue to add to the fund balance and save for the future stability of the library. Account for the structural maintenance repair of both buildings. Maintenance issues continue to arise as many items get older and need replacement due to wear. This fiscal year, we intend to replace the carpet in the middle of the CK library and possibly parts of the JFK library carpet there. This was a holdover from last year as we opted to purchase a vehicle so we could do deliveries for COVID instead. In terms of service improvements, we'll be looking into continuing delivery service to patrons in Dearborn Heights. This has been on our radar for some time. And this year, we'll be moving forward with some services in this area if circumstances allow. In accordance with state law, we've also set a new line that sets aside $45,000 for future healthcare liabilities that may exist with library employees. This number is subject to adjustment when better data is provided and will be built into our long-term projections. We are also taking into account the possible minimum wage increase and will consider that as a possible factor in upcoming costs. So thanks for your time and consideration. And what questions does anyone have on a particular line, or would you like me to go line by line in the budget?
You did a good presentation. Let's call on Councilman Muscat. I'm going to ask to keep it specifically to the budget, not get off track. I know. Go ahead, Councilman Muscat.
Councilwoman, you just read my mind. It's exactly what I wanted to tell you. We're getting off track on a lot of this, so that's all I needed to say.
Thank you so much. Councilman Abdelhak.
Yes, I want to thank the director of the library, McCaffrey, for all what he's doing. And I just have one question. Are those employees union, getting those raises by union contract, or you suggested that?
It's non-union and it's suggested. These rates are more in accordance with keeping up with local rates for librarians with master's degrees in the area. Just like Elizabeth has stated, there is a competitive market for that, and that those rates keep us in the middle ground in terms of keeping us competitive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Abdullah.
Director, two quick things. The first one, I assume the room rental total drop almost to next to nothing from 36,000 due to COVID. Is that correct? Room rental.
The room
you went
rental
from 36,000 to 100. Proposed $100.
I'm sorry, you're talking the fees?
Yeah, you've got under revenues, room rental, you went from 36,000 almost to $100. Is that primarily because of the COVID situation?
let me check that line here. Let me make sure that I'm correct on this. All right, I'll just say this. I believe that there might have been, I don't know if this was transcribed weird or something, but we didn't have $30,000 in room rental last year. We generally only have a few $100s in terms of room rental each year.
So it has to be corrected, obviously, then.
So what page are you on here? So I can make sure.
I'm on page 47.
Page 47. Okay, miscellaneous income, interest, room rental. Okay, I see what you're talking about. That should be the TIFA line, I believe. No, wait.
Those two are reversed.
Interest. Amended budget, library fines.
It's the one just below interest. At the top, it has library millage.
Okay.
Page 47.
Yeah,
Probably
I'm looking
reversed.
at it. I am looking at it. All right, that revenue is on a different line. I'll just say that. It's on a different line. Activity through 12/31, there's no way it's 35,000. It's probably like a couple $100.
So you got to correct that then, basically.
Right. So it probably is in, I actually think it's in aid or penal fines now that I'm looking at the line, because there's a couple lines that look a little low. from what I understand. But yeah, when this was put in, we've had a lot of transition in terms of these three offices. I think the lines were just inverted somewhere.
Okay.
I'll
So
make
can
sure
you-
that's correct.
Yeah, can you correct that and send us adjusted one? Then
my
the
apologies.
question I had is, under outreach marketing, you're asking for a new budget amount of 38,000. What exactly is that for?
Okay. So what we did in our personnel is we're having a retiree. One of our supervising librarians is retiring at JFK. And in order to get a position that I think more suits our community and more meets our needs, I wanted to make sure that we had a librarian who went out to the community, did a lot more outreach, did a lot more marketing, and pushed our services a lot harder. I think that, we have a heck of a lot of people that love the library and use the library, but you always want the people that you don't have yet. So a lot of libraries have this specific position, and we felt we could better suit our public rather than having two supervising librarians, just have one supervising librarian and an outreach librarian.
I see. So it'd be the same amount of funds, just changing positions.
That is correct. You'll notice that the line above it, supervising librarian, is knocked down from 2 to 1. Also, a couple other things, just so we're clear, in terms of titles, this is also going to change a little bit, but in terms of the amounts are accurate there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Questions before we move on? Thank you. Library
Thank you.
Director McCaffrey. Next, we have building and engineering. Okay, who's Councilman Abdul Haq?
I'm just preparing myself.
Okay. Who is here for building and engineering?
I unmuted the director.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
So for the last 20 years, the building department's going backwards. So now we're trying to go forward. So that's why all the cost is coming. So that's all I can kind of say now. So if you have any questions, throw them at me.
Bill Hawk.
Oh boy, that was fast. First, congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sure you're going to do a very good job. How confident about the revenues you are for the next year?
Very confident.
It's
booming.
Do you see that our city is booming in new construction, new projects, and new businesses coming up? So you can be very confident that we're going to meet your projection.
At this time, I think we're going to go way over it.
Okay, and I hope that you're going to improve all the computers, all the digital work, in your department, to make it easy for everybody to basically apply to get the inspection faster. And anything you need from the council, you got my support, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Councilman Abdullah.
Okay, so I'll ask the easy one first. On the capital outlay, you went from $577 spent so far for this particular fiscal year to asking for $40,000 on capital outlay under $5,000. Is there any particular reason, Director, why we're having such a high jump?
Yes, most of you guys have been in the building department and see how crowded it is.
Correct.
So we're trying to move into the assessor's office, which is 3 times the size of the building department.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have to redo all the electric in there, the computers, and the counters and all that stuff.
So
That's
you're
what
switching, with the assessor's office?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Okay, and then I noticed training went up quite a bit, 2.5 times what you originally had, but that's fine. I'm always for training, so we'll leave that one alone. But now this is where the main questions are. You're getting rid of one of the inspector positions, which really concerns me, because I know we do have a need for inspectors, but then you're adding on an office manager position. Can you give me your thought process behind that?
We are not getting rid of any inspectors. The cost difference now is because there was only one inspector, myself, and then there was just part-timers.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're all full-time, and we're just adding an office manager.
So I'm referencing where you go on inspector, not new hire, directly above it. That'd be the third line coming down. You went from currently budgeted 1 to requesting 0. That's what I'm referencing. So I'm making sure that we're not losing an inspector.
No, those were already filled. We have 2 full-timers.
So you're good then. Okay.
Yep,
and then the office manager position, what's the direction behind that?
What the reasoning that's needed is there's 20 years ago there was 5 people, 5 inspectors, a plan examiner. So now what it is there's only 3 of us, and we're doing all of that. So we need that person to be able to do all of our emails, our calling for our plan examiners, and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's going to be somebody hired from outside, or is that going to be somebody hired from within?
It could be either one.
Okay, so no decision's been made on that.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilman Constant, you're next.
Thank you, and quickly, Rick, congratulations on your appointment. Scheduling inspections online and getting certificates of occupancy or in final readings on water bills remotely. Is that something you see in the foreseeable future? And if so, any idea what the cost would be?
You guys will be getting something, not this council meeting, but next council meeting that we just signed. And that's going to start everything online. And then we have to do the training and all that stuff. But it's coming. It's just for the software for BSNA, it's like $7,000.
Yeah, but it's probably well worth it. All right, thank you. Yep.
Questions?
That's all I have.
Okay. Any further questions at this time? Let's open it up to public comment. I ask that you limit it to 2 minutes. And Mr. Drapkowski.
Good afternoon, everybody. Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, everybody working on the budget, doing a hard job out there. Excuse me if I lose my voice. One thing I was going to look at is the police budget. Deputy Chief Lazar used to be in charge of emergency management. Now, if you want to keep a deputy chief, or if the police department does, why aren't they going to take on a little more responsibility? All right. So since that was in there before, I don't see why it can't be done again. Also, we've got quite a few lieutenants and sergeants. Now, back when I was working there, a lot of the lieutenants were in charge of training programs and also in charge of supervising the dispatch. Why can't that be done again? Okay. And what else I want to talk about is the coordinator for the FOIA information. Why isn't that a service that our corporate counsel is offering? I think a paralegal should be looking at that information and not leaving the city liable for anything that should not get out. Those are the things I want to talk about.
Okay. Directing those questions to
anybody who can answer them.
Who
the chief
should
or the
answer?
mayor.
Okay. Well, I don't think Chief Myers is on here anymore. Mayor, did you want to respond to that?
And
Jesus, here.
if the chief is retiring in December, is that when he starts his drop program? Or is he already in the drop and just retiring at the end of December?
Okay, I've got Mayor. Do you want to answer the question the first?
Can't hear you.
I'm having the mayor answer the first part of your question.
I'm sorry, Vince, the question about the deputy chief, what was that? I know you made a comment, but what was that question? I'm sorry. I didn't understand the question.
Well, former deputy chiefs used to be the emergency manager in the past.
Mhm.
Now, if you take away the deputy chief as a part-time person, but yet you want to bring in an emergency manager, I don't see where we're gaining anything. I know I'm having a hard time talking right now, but
Yeah.
it's the best I can do.
I can probably help you with that, the explanation. Many of you know, Mr. Kukowski worked at the police department probably about a decade ago. He might be able to correct me when he left, but when we had an emergency manager, when the deputy chief had those responsibilities, we also had 3 captains. Like I said, that we moved, so that captain doesn't exist anymore. So many of those duties that that captain was doing is now in the hands of that deputy chief. So once again, over the course of the last 2 decades, we've cut 20% of our manpower here at the police department, the majority of it being upper command. And now we're running at what is probably the most efficient we've run. So that was my argument for the deputy chief spot. And I will stick by that decision. But yeah, that's to address his comment about the emergency management. There was a different position. So he was dedicated purely to that. We don't have that position anymore. What's the next one? I know you had a couple.
Mr. Drapkowski?
The FOIA coordinator. If I feel that the FOIA coordinator should be serviced by our legal team, the legal counsel. I mean, if it's a legal document that could put the city in jeopardy in some way, possibly, shouldn't that be a paralegal?
I can probably handle that question for you. Chief of Staff Hernandez is doing a great job as the FOIA coordinator. We here at the police department handle our FOIAs. They are trained by the state of Michigan on what can and can't be released. That division has a lieutenant that oversees it. That is our primary FOIA coordinator. And then anything that's would bring some type of question of liability or questions, we then defer to the legal counsel, to corporation counsel, for guidance on topics that we find as being questionable. And I see Chief of Staff Hernandez is shaking their head. So it's a very well fine-tuned process with Chief Hernandez, Lieutenant Gonzalez at the Records Department, in coordination with Corporation Counsel Miyake, to make sure those type things don't happen. And I'll let Chief of Staff Hernandez add anything that she thinks is relevant.
No, that is absolutely correct. Thank you so much, Chief Myers. But yes, ultimately, all of the different departments that have FOIA coordinators, including the police and the fire department, all report to the mayor's office and from their legal services if it is necessary. But again, I am making sure that everybody has the support that they need, and everyone is trained in the topic as to what can be released and what cannot be released.
Okay, and my one last thing is a while ago.
Your time's almost up. Please. Okay, I'll let you ask one more question.
Thank you. Chief, I mentioned a while ago at a city council meeting, I don't know if you gave it any concern or not, about asking former officers, retired officers that have dispatch experience, if they'd be willing to come in as part-time dispatchers. I know you're doing your best to work with what you got, and you know darn well I'm in favor of keeping our dispatchers, but yet we got to look somewhere to get those people staffed properly. You know, I'm all for giving you guys whatever you need, but did you consider that?
So the answer is, yeah, they've considered all of that because we have that application process. So they're going to be doing another one here soon with the approval because we're still trying to find those dispatchers. Just because they worked here as a police officer, there's the training and the certification that they need. All they could really be is a call taker, and that's what we're at right now. That's where we're using our police officers. To actually be a certified dispatcher, there's certain training and certain schools they would go to. So when we look for part-time dispatchers, we're looking for people already certified, or you're investing money into that part-time employee. So all those are out there, and those jobs have been out there. I yet to see a part-time retired police officer apply for any of those positions.
Have you asked them?
We've posted it. No, I'm not asking. I haven't called retirees and said, hey, can you come back and work? That's not really what was my plan.
Well, it's a thought.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next, we have Rachel Lapointe. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I just had a question about raises in general across the board. I know usually my husband just gets a regular cost of living increase, like a 1 or 2%. And I don't know if that's something that the city could consider for everyone, because it does seem like something that would be appropriate to make sure that everyone has an appropriate wage that can cover their expenses. So not as much a question, maybe as a comment, but if there is a plan for that, I'd love to hear about it. So that's it. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You
Okay,
too.
is there any further comment? At this time, this concludes our budget study session. Everybody have a good day.
Thank
you.
you. Goodbye. Have a good weekend.